So then, we are back with a more understanding from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find a layer of understanding of the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. So then, as we are then obviously watching the news and being very aware of worldwide gatherings of trade, we can obviously trace back then the information from the instructions and then line up ourselves of what's coming in the future. So then, as we then were very aware of, the United States has not joined then the Bali gathering, and then since a couple of days ago, United States has removed itself from the world's market, because the new world market obviously is coming from the east, because the Asians obviously they received most of their understandings from Shaliach Shaul many centuries ago, and then from then on it was always prosperous. It came the time for Asia and China obviously leading the world, and then we are discovering more deals with China and Germany and China and many other countries. So then, with these in mind, we then hear more news from Bali, and came out very freshly a few moments ago, in fact, a news regarding then FEDEX. It's obviously a company related with trade and also transportation, and they have new places, they have built new facilities. For instance, the facility in Japan and Singapore. And then obviously we can find more information regarding the Bali gathering. The vice president of Microsoft was also there, and they are gathering this information and becoming very solidly then in our minds, because we can understand very nearly. We are then experiencing the first glimpses of the new computer system coming up, the new program of the trade in the computer. And then with this in mind, we can also understand that very nearly we will find then the Ishmaelites also helping the Asian market with very reasonable priced fuel. So then we can find these truths very evident, as then if you were a person watching the previous videos, you can make an analysis. Every video then spoken on these understandings of the whole instructions you find very consistent, and when you read the instructions and then you then watch the videos of the news coming out around the world, you find then a lining of the instructions and the events worldwide. So then we very excitedly then further expect more deals coming, and then China obviously becoming more prominent. So then we can find ourselves further understanding and expanding our thoughts, expanding our knowledge regarding then the instructions. Next year then we find ourselves then expecting China and Congo coming up with some sort of a deal, where then Ezekiel the first chapter, the machine that Ezekiel saw, it's simply a synchronism of events. As then a deal of DRC and China next year. Why then next year? Because there is a big exposition of Chinese companies on Congo, and obviously they will make deals and then will place in motion the machine of Ezekiel the first chapter. From then on, then lots of situations will take place, as we are then precisely waiting for Daniel chapter 11 then verse 5 for next year. Until then, we'll find then the trade in the computer becoming more evident, as we then found the vice president of Microsoft already then gathering information, and then obviously FEDEX, very important company throughout the world, lining up themselves for the electronic trade. So they are obviously expecting to understand what Messiah has said when he said in Gelah, and the freighters of the earth. He knew that the freighters at some point they would become in charge of the world's leadership. and this time is coming as per the instructions. So please stay tuned. Later they're going to evaluate more in details from the time of the prophets, and then understand step by step what the Messiah simply relayed what the prophets had said, and he cleaned up the whole instructions. Please stay tuned. Much more coming up.